A year into my sentence, my wife had a child with my predecessor. Once a successful entrepreneur, Shawn Fischer now woke up in prison for a crime he did not commit. His wife, Leanna Crawford, also let him down by standing with Jason Corey, the man who framed him. While falling from his job, Shawn surrounded himself with betrayal and people dying around him. However, from rescues and the storm rose a unique character in the series, Lisa Sinclair, an aunt to Jason Corey, and is a large shareholder of Greenfield Group who alter Shawn's life. Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. A year ago, my wife, Leanna Crawford, was harassed by 3 thugs in front of a bar. To protect her, I cracked one of their heads open. In the final verdict, I was found to have acted in excessive self-defense and was sentenced to 1 year and 2 months in prison. Upon my release, I returned home only to find Leanna holding a child and taking a family photo with her ex-boyfriend, Jason Corey. When I questioned the child's lineage, Leanna tried to stammer out an explanation, but her guilty conscience was evident in her eyes. At that point, Jason boldly admitted that the child was theirs. Leanna quickly explained to me that she hadn't betrayed me, claiming that the child was conceived through artificial insemination. She even had the audacity to tell me to accept this and that, when the child is born, it could call me father. Just as we were confronting each other, Jason, embarrassed and furious, launched a sneak attack from behind, raining punches and kicks on me. After breaking free, I clenched my fists, ready to charge at him. Then my mother called. Seeing my mom's call, my clenched fists loosened. My mom is getting up in years, and I cannot let my impulsive actions bring her to tears. On the day I was released from prison, no one came to pick me up, causing my heart, which had been on fire due to my release, to suddenly drop in temperature. I thought she would come to pick me up. Upon returning home, I felt a chill in my heart. Leanna and Jason were sitting on the sofa, holding a newborn baby between them. In front of them stood a camera, and the photographer said with a smile, "Dad, hold the baby's left arm and move a little closer to Mom." Upon hearing this, I shuddered as if struck by lightning. They are a family of 3, so what did that make me? It wasn't until the photograph was developed from the camera that the people in the house finally noticed me standing at the door. The smile that once danced in Leanna's eyes had now turned into utter panic. "Ah, Shawn, I forgot you were being released from prison today. Come over here and take a look at the child that Jason and I have." Jason glared at me with his smug and provoking eyes. He always did this, rubbing shoulders with Leanna, stoking my anger and waiting for Leanna to scold me to protect him. I did not join in their conversation but walked straight over to them, pointed at the child between the 2 of them, and asked, "Did you both have this child?" The photographer seemed to sense something, quickly set aside the photos on the table, packed up his camera, and left the room. Leanna stammered as she tried to explain, "Shawn, don't get agitated. Hear me out. Jason and we never had any physical relationship, this child." I growled, "All to me? Do you think I'm a fool? Just got out of prison today, and you and your ex-boyfriend are in our home, holding a baby and taking a family photo. Are you declaring sovereignty over me?" A sense of guilt surfaced on Leanna's face, but she found herself unable to utter a single word. Jason stood up and positioned himself in front of Leanna. "This child is indeed mine and Leanna's, so what?" A trace of panic crossed Leanna's face. She tugged on the corner of Jason's clothes. "Jason, why are you scared? He's nothing but an ex-convict fresh from jail. If he dares to mess around again, we'll just send him back in," Jason declared defiantly with a face full of arrogance. My expression fluctuated wildly, feeling as though all my strength had been sucked away and I had no choice but to lean against the wall. After pondering for a while and realizing that the cat was out of the bag, Leanna boldly acknowledged the truth. "Shawn, let me tell you the truth. When you were serving your sentence, I gave birth to Jason's child. Jason's wife feared that pregnancy would ruin her figure and didn't want to have children at this point. But Jason wanted a child of his own so much that he turned to me. It was just a small favor. You don't have to be so petty about it. Me, stingy? When I heard Leanna utter such an absurd statement, I was instantly infuriated. How dare you call me stingy? Do you even remember why I ended up in jail? While I was serving time, you cheated on me. That's not all, you even had a child with another man. Is this how you repay me? Jason pointed a finger at my nose. Warning, convict. I suggest you watch your words. My relationship with your wife is purely innocent. I haven't done anything to wrong you. Become a bit more broad-minded as a man. This child was conceived through artificial insemination between Leanna and me. If you continue to talk nonsense, I'll rip your mouth off. I felt my rage hitting its highest point at that moment. Jason kept implying that I'm a convict, while my own wife had his child. He even had the audacity to claim that he did nothing wrong. His words were filled with threats against me. I stared fixedly at Leanna. Weren't you always saying you were young and didn't want your figure to go out of shape too early, that you wouldn't consider having kids before 35? I promised that, but what is the outcome? Does it mean that you're not afraid of becoming out of shape since his wife is? Do you truly love him? Our arguing scared the child in Leanna's arms, and the kid broke into loud wails. At some point, Jason had gotten behind me and suddenly kicked me sharply in my lower back. Convict, you've scared my child. I had just fallen flat on the ground and was about to get up when Jason, on top of me, punched me straight in the nose. I instantly felt a sharp pain in my face, and tears unknowingly streamed down. Instantly, I lost the ability to retaliate. While spewing profanities at me, Jason punched and kicked my curled-up body on the ground. The entire time, Leanna didn't utter a word of persuasion, let alone step forward to intervene. She just watched quietly as I took the beating. The scene instantly reminded me of a year ago when I defended her from harassment and was slammed by 3 burly men. Only at that time her gaze was helpless. Now it was indifferent. Ah! With my sudden cry, I kicked off Jason, who was on top of me, and he tumbled to the ground like a falling gourd. I quickly got up, clenched my fists, and walked towards him. Just as I was about to strike, Leanna grabbed hold of me tightly. Shawn, have you forgotten why you were arrested last time? Haven't you had enough of squatting in jail? You are not allowed to hit Jason. Jason is my friend. The way she was now protecting Jason was just like how I had protected her 1 year ago, both with a resolute expression defending those we cared for. My heart turned cold. While I was being beaten just a while ago, she stood by with cold eyes. Now that I had gained the upper hand, she was afraid that Jason would be hit and stepped out to stop me. She actually had the audacity to mention why I got arrested. If it weren't for her, how would I have ended up in prison? I've been an introvert since childhood, seen as a decent person by teachers and classmates. But being decent does not equate to tolerating bullying. On the contrary, when pushed to their limits, decent people can retaliate even harder. Right now, that's exactly what I am. Get lost. I shook off Leanna and continued to walk towards Jason, who was lying on the ground. Suddenly, the shattered screen of the mobile phone on the ground rang. It was the phone that Jason had just kicked and broken. I glanced at the screen, and the caller ID was marked as Mom. An image sprang to my mind of my mother, washed in tears all day a year ago when she found out I had been sentenced. My father departed early, and I not only failed to take good care of my mother, but also brought her so much trouble. Thinking about this, the rage on my face faded a bit, and the fist that I had been clenching slowly unclenched. Die, bastard. Suddenly, the regaining consciousness Jason slapped me hard in the face. I was knocked directly to the ground by this slap, blood streaming from my mouth and nose showing the force of the slap. This time I did not resist again. I was afraid of accidentally hitting too hard and hurting my mother again. Jason kicked me a few more times while holding the child and pulling Leanna, and said as he walked out the door, "You convict, you're on your own from now on. Settle your divorce with Leanna in the next few days. Don't affect our family reunification." Leanna also spoke, Shawn Fischer, our fate has ended. Since you're so petty and unable to accept this matter, then we can only divorce. See you at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning." With that, the family of three stormed out and slammed the door. I wiped the fresh blood from my face, picked up my phone, and called back, patiently talking with my mother sentence by sentence. "Mom, my son is out. This time is a lesson. I will definitely be careful in the future. You have had a hard time during the days I've been away. You're getting on in years. Don't exhaust yourself. I'll come back and see you in the next few days. Mom, that's all for now. I have other things to attend to." After ending the call with my mother, I lay on the floor, shedding tears of humiliation. In the photo on the coffee table, the smiling family of three seemed to be mocking me. I don't know how long I lay there, the blood on my face already dry. I only managed to drag my soulless body to the bathroom, filled the sink with water, and plunged my head into it fiercely. The cold water instantly refreshed my mind, and I couldn't help but recollect my past with Leanna. In university, she was unanimously acknowledged as the campus belle by our school. As for me, I was just an ordinary introverted lad. If I have to mention any strengths, it might be that I'm relatively good-looking with a sunny countenance. In the second semester of our freshman year, Leanna, who had just joined the student union, and class monitor Jason sympathized with each other. After all, they were both regarded as superior individuals at that time. It was natural for them to end up together. Lauds and blessings poured in from classmates, praising them as a match made in heaven, a born couple. The two of them were once recognized as the love model throughout the school. There was even some love-struck girls saying that if these two broke up, she would never believe in love again. Yet, on the eve of graduation, the two quarreled incessantly over employment issues. Because both were outstanding, neither was willing to give in, leading eventually to their breakup. Later on, I was fortuitously assigned to a company located in the same city as Leanna. Bolstered by our status as university classmates, coupled with my introspective honesty and compliance, Leanna began to focus on me. Her dominating personality happened to resonate well with me. The campus belle fancied me, and at the time, I happened to be in the phase of life where I longed for a relationship. Thus, we naturally wound up together. However, for me, all this was surreal yet seemed natural. It was only later that I discovered she and her ex-boyfriend Jason were still in touch, having frequent interactions until 2 years ago, when Jason was reassigned to work in our city. Jason frequently appeared in my life under the name of being a classmate. Leanna and Jason were often together in life, leaving me out in the cold. At times, I couldn't even tell who Leanna's partner really was. I've been green with jealousy multiple times because of this, but Leanna brushed it all off as pettiness, saying things like, "A real man wouldn't make a fuss over such a trivial matter." Watching them come and go together in public places left me feeling utterly helpless. I'd protested many times, but instead of winning Leanna back, I seemed to be pushing her farther away. It's quite pathetic for a man to live like this. I thought about getting a divorce, but I was too afraid deep down. I was terrified that if I asked for a divorce, she would actually agree. Once things reached that point, there would be no room for recouping. I knew in my heart that I loved her. I couldn't bring myself to let go of this destructive love, and that's why she could control me so effortlessly. One time, when Jason invited her to the bar, she gleefully accepted. She played all night until the late hours before she called me to pick her up. When I got to the bar, 3 burly men had Leanna cornered. Jason, who was at the entrance, only dared to sneak glances at her direction, evidently too afraid to step forward. I jumped out of the car and stood against them just before they could take advantage of Leanna. The 3 brutes were drunk. I tried reasoning with them, but they were deaf to my words. I lost my temper and got into a brawl with them. As the saying goes, it's hard to fight against multiple enemies. I was soon overwhelmed and knocked to the ground. I don't know how many punches and kicks I took, but I was sore all over. One of them landed a heavy kick in my stomach. Fury clouded my vision, so I picked up a brick and smashed it into one of their heads. I did all this to protect Leanna. Even now, I clearly remember what Leanna said to me afterwards. "You're a grown man. How could you be so careless when you started? If I damage someone, if I compensate, won't my standard of living plummet? You're to blame for this showing off for what? You think you could beat 3 people? Anyway, when they sue you later, I won't be able to come up with the money. Do whatever sentencing you gotta do." Listening to these chilling words, I vaguely remember my feelings at the time. Until I was eventually sentenced, my heart was always cold. I did everything I could, but after everything, I received such blame. Oh. Cough, cough, cough. It wasn't until I couldn't hold my breath underwater any longer that I pulled my thoughts back to reality. On the second day, when I arrived at the Marriage License Bureau, Jason and Leanna indeed showed up as expected. Good for nothing, in reality, by divorcing you, I am doing you a favor. You, a labor reformer fresh out of prison without even a job. Should Leanna live on air and love with you along with the kid? I can't believe this day has finally arrived. I have been waiting for this for more than a year. Today, I can finally get divorced. Accompanied by their mockery, we formally completed the divorce procedures. Leanna, after getting the certificate, didn't even bother to say goodbye. She just gave me a cold glance, got into Jason's car, and left. The days after prison and divorce, to say the least, were tranquil for me. Previously, I always regarded Leanna as my whole world, and now I can finally start living for myself. It's just that I was so foolish back then to have been jailed for a woman like her. I brought my mother over from my hometown and let her live with me. I didn't hide anything from my mother and told her about the divorce. However, my mother said she didn't care about anyone else but me, and all she wanted was for me to be happy and safe. Recently, Jason and Leanna's life has been very sweet. These two are always updating their daily activities. There are pictures of the child, as well as their intimate photos. Below, many of our university classmates commented, "The child truly inherits the best genes, having such big, beautiful double-fold eyelids. No wonder he is the child of the class leader and the school flower. I thought you two were a perfect match when we were in school, and I still think so after all these years. You two epitomize the phrase, a talented man and a beautiful woman. Have you set the date yet? We are waiting to celebrate." Upon reading the comments, I discovered that Jason had also divorced his wife. Seeing this, I quietly gave a thumbs up. This caused quite a stir in the comments section. Wow! Shawn actually gave a thumbs up. Watching his ex-wife getting back together with the class leader must be unsettling for him. I heard from Leanna that Shawn is a domestic abuser. He is quite unstable and was sentenced to jail for assaulting someone. Right. I heard too. He's a reformed criminal who just got out of prison. Only then did I realize that, in Leanna's words, I had turned from being her rescuer into a domestic abuser. Just as I was browsing through these defamations against me in the comments section, I received a call from Jason, who sounded very happy on the other end. "Shawn, did you see the group notification? Leanna and I are having our wedding ceremony in 2 days. Why don't you come if you have time?" His tone implied a long-established camaraderie between us. "No interest," I answered, flatly. "Still mad about our previous fight, huh? I must say you're a bit too petty. It's not worthy of you to hold a grudge over such a trivial matter." I knew he was provoking me. For such individuals, I simply had nothing to say. Leanna was your wife before, but it's a fact that you two weren't compatible. She can only be happy when she's with me. Don't you want to witness her future happiness in person? As he said that, Leanna's voice was heard from the other end of the line. "Why are you calling him? It's going to be so awkward." "The ones who should feel awkward aren't us. It's him." Listening to their conversation, I knew exactly what Jason was thinking. He just wanted to provoke me and show everyone, in front of all our classmates, that he was more capable than me, that he could snatch away Leanna, who was already wed to me. It all boils down to his resentment for my taking advantage of a situation. "Do you want to come or not?" Jason's provocative tone on the other end of the line increased in intensity. Finally, I agreed. That night, a woman knocked on my door. I invited her in, and after getting to know her, I found out she was Jason's aunt, named Lisa Sinclair, a majority shareholder of Greenfield Enterprises. That was when I realized Jason had such a powerful aunt to rely on. No wonder he bullied me with his influence. Just when I thought she came with ill intentions, she actually bowed to me in apologies. It turned out that Jason's first marriage was arranged by Lisa, and in order to be with Leanna, Jason drove his own wife to her death. She was the one who told me that my imprisonment a year ago was not a coincidence. All of this was carefully planned by Jason in advance. The 3 burly men who harassed Leanna years ago were all hired by Jason. Leanna also knew about it, helping them put on a good show. They took advantage of my love for Leanna and set a trap for me. After I was framed and sent to jail, the 2 of them could be together openly. Lisa said that she found out about these incidents later. Otherwise, she would definitely have stopped them unfolding. Knowing the depth of her nephew's sins and fully aware of everything that happened to me, Lisa kept bowing her head in apology, asking for my forgiveness. Upon learning of this, anger surged in my heart. I didn't understand why my years of sincere love were rewarded with such a result, especially with Leanna. If she didn't love me and her heart was always filled with Jason, then why did she want to be with me? Lisa promised me that she would clear my name on the day of this jerk and slut's wedding. On the day of the wedding, the scene was truly grand. The entrance was filled with various luxury cars. Walking into the banquet hall, most of the classmates had already arrived. Jason was in a blue suit, a red tie, and shiny polished leather shoes, looking radiant. Leanna was dressed to kill in a dazzling white wedding dress, looking resplendent. They stood together and looked like a golden boy and jade girl straight out of an oil painting. Guests went up to congratulate them one after another, and while wishing the newlyweds, they also caught a glimpse of the couple's child. The moment I took my seat, everyone in the room cast strange glances at me. They didn't understand why I would attend Leanna's wedding, so they started whispering among themselves. Why is Shawn Fischer here? This ex-convict really has no shame. If it were me, I wouldn't dare to show up here. He's asking for humiliation. Don't even mention it. Not only was he cuckolded while he was in jail, but his wife also divorced him after his release. Now she's marrying another man. The most astonishing part is that he actually came to attend the wedding. One look at Shawn's face and you can tell that he's quite ruthless. That's why he ended up in prison. Do you think he's here to cause a scene today? Everyone keep a close watch. We can't let him disrupt our class monitors and school beauty's wedding. I slowly stood up, and the person who just said, "Everyone, keep a close watch," held his breath and stopped talking, fearful that I would head straight for him. Step by step, I walked towards the newlyweds. Leanna looked at me with disdain, while Jason, wearing a smile, said, "Shawn, you didn't disappoint after all. Thank you for coming to bless Leanna and me." I handed them the red envelope I had prepared in advance. "I wish you two a harmony that lasts a century, and I also wish your baby grows up strong and healthy." Jason gently slapped my cheek twice, laughing as he said, "I guess you can be considered magnanimous. Ha ha ha, you've shown great consideration indeed. I owe it to you that I have this child, thanks to your imprisonment a few years back. Should I have my child call you godfather?" Seeing my feeble behavior, Jason became even more smug. Perhaps in his heart, I was no more than a tame dog under his control. I waved my hand. "I am a reformed criminal. I dare not let you, Mr. Corey, recognize me as your son-in-law. It would only tarnish the baby's status. If he finds out someday that his godfather has served prison time before, he would feel embarrassed in front of his friends." Upon hearing this, Jason couldn't be happier, his mouth almost splitting wide up to his ears in amusement. From the side, Leanna looked at me with complex eyes. She probably never thought I'd be so undignified at this moment. Classmates started commenting again. "Shawn may not be so impressive, but his words seem quite sincere." What a coward. Actually, Shawn showing up here is rather unfortunate. But since he's sincere, the class representative should consider sparing him a bit. Under everyone's scrutiny, I slowly went to a corner and sat down. Halfway through the event, I went to the restroom. To return to my spot, I had to pass by where the family of three were seated. As I came back, walking past their family of three, someone suddenly grabbed my wrist. At that moment, the baby in the stroller started crying loudly, sounding as if he was in great pain. Looking back, the one who grabbed my wrist was none other than Jason. "What are you doing?" I asked. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jason subtly pinching the child's thigh and then quickly retracting his hand. "Did you pinch the inside of my son's thigh?" Jason glared at me with a voracious expression. "Look at his thigh. You've turned it all bruised and purple." "Shawn, I know you really despise me. You're envious that I'm more better than you, and you're bitter that your ex-wife divorced you to be with me. Even with your inner turmoil, you could have talked to me personally. But now, you've pinched my child until he's like this. Are you trying to get revenge on me?" Our classmates riffed towards us, gently lifting the boy's leg. We indeed saw a pinch mark turned purple and blue on his thigh. I argued defiantly, "You did it. You think I didn't see? Just to frame me, you'd go to such lengths. You're full of it. How could I harm my own child?" Jason violently grabbed my collar. Everyone present seemed to have taken a sharp intake of breath. It must be Shawn. No one else would have any reason to do it. Who the hell are they trying to frame? How could a child's own father possibly hurt him? This guy is so malicious. He's really not living up to his title as a rehabilitated convict, laying his hand on a child, completely without a moral compass. We don't need to talk a lot about this kind of person. Just call the police and let him get back to his cell. Leanna, with tears in her eyes and holding the child, said to me, "Shawn, if there's something you're dissatisfied with, you could come to Jason and me to talk it through. Why the hell are you taking out your grievances on our child? You'd better kneel down and apologize." I knew this was a setup, so all I could do was meekly retort, "Just hold your horses, folks. Jumping to conclusions won't do you any good. Even if you check the security footage or seek for the real culprit, you won't find me at fault. So why should I apologize for something I didn't do? No mother would stand by while her child is hurt. And since I can't bring justice to my child, then I'll have to avenge him myself." As Leanna approached me, she lunged forward to slap me across the face. But I wouldn't let her hit me for no reason. So, I grabbed her wrist tightly. "Assaulting my child is one thing, but how dare you touch my wife's hand?" In the blink of an eye, I felt something strike the back of my head, knocking me off my feet. While sprawled on the ground, I noticed shattered pieces of what seemed to be a plate. Blood trailed down my neck, dripping onto the floor like a broken spring of beads. Standing over me, Jason glared at me with a fierce look in his eyes. "Let's teach this beast a lesson for the sake of our class leader and the school bell." I don't know who started it, but soon after, the students followed suit, laying into me while I was still down. Leanna, on the sidelines, feigned attempts at persuading them to stop. But when the chance arose, she took a few kicks at me. Just as I curled up into a ball, not knowing how long I had been beaten, a woman's resonant voice suddenly rang out from the doorway. "Everyone, stop." The woman's voice carried an intimidating presence. Hearing her, everyone backed away from me. At this moment, my head was bleeding, and my clothes were dirted with numerous footprints. I was in such a sorry state. Through the crowd, Jason spoke in a feeble voice. Auntie, why are you here?" Standing at the entrance was Jason's aunt, Lisa Sinclair. Lisa walked into the banquet hall, a teasing smile playing at the corners of her eyes and lips. "My nephew is getting married, and you're asking why this auntie can't come?" Jason immediately scurried over like a fawning dog. "Of course you can, Auntie. You're the closest person to me in this world." "Enough," Lisa abruptly interrupted him. "You're getting married today. Rightfully, I should be here to bless you. Who's the lucky person?" Leanna took 2 steps forward. Aunt. Looking at the pure white wedding dress, Lisa naturally knew she was the bride today, but she still loudly cried, "Shut up! I didn't ask you." Leanna was just about to retort when Jason silenced her with a piercing glare. Lisa walked toward me, helped me up, and softly asked, "How are you? No harm done, right? Do we need to go to the hospital?" Slowly, I managed to stand, spitting out a bloodied gob. I gave a frosty stare at Jason and Leanna, saying, "I'm fine, but your nephew sure knows how to wreak havoc, doesn't he? Don't worry, I'll make sure you get justice today." With that, Lisa met Jason's gaze head-on. Feeling guilty, Jason asked, "Auntie, do you know this loser? Let's talk about that later." "Jason, let me ask you, where is your wife, Shayla Corey?" Jason was left speechless. I never married into a family, nor did I have any children. I'm a major shareholder of Greenfield Hotel, and the shares I own amount to more than $1 billion when converted to cash. When I retire, all this wealth will naturally be yours. But why abandon a perfectly good life to engage in such heartless deeds? I'll ask you again, where is Shayla? The expression on Jason's face was volatile, and it took him a while before he started to speak softly. She had a myocardial infarction a month ago. She didn't make it through the rescue and died. The look in Lisa's eyes slightly narrowed, and her voice abruptly escalated by 2 decibels. "I want you to tell me the truth. I don't like the way you're lying right now." Hesitation appeared on Jason's face as he gritted his teeth and insisted, "She's really dead." Slap. Lisa slapped him across the face, trying to knock some sense into his unscrupulous nephew. "You are still arguing with me, aren't you? Dr. Luke, come in." Upon Lisa's command, a doctor in a white coat walked in through the door. Jason was momentarily petrified, staring desperately at the doctor as if to warn him not to utter anything preposterous. Dr. Luke shivered at the sight of Jason's expression, so Lisa patted his shoulder. "Be brave and speak today. Since I have dared to bring you here, you should have no worries. If you don't speak, don't blame me for suing you for forgery in court." Jason wanted to step forward to stop it, but he slowly put down the hand he stretched out. At that moment, he looked as nervous as a drowned dog, appearing quite ridiculous. Dr. Luke understood the pros and cons. As if he had made some kind of decision, he loudly proclaimed, "Shayla was forced to her death by Jason. The reason is that Jason wanted a divorce. She couldn't explain to her parents. In the end, chose to hang herself. This is how it happened. On the 7th of last month, Mr. Jason found me regarding his wife's death by hanging. He didn't want the outside world to know that his wife died by suicide, so Mr. Corey asked me to issue a fake death certificate, stating the cause of death as a myocardial infarction." When Dr. Luke's words were spoken, the entire scene became agitated. Even the wind vane of the banquet pointed from me towards Jason. My goodness, what a sensational piece of news. I can't believe Jason's aunt is so wealthy, and yet he would stoop so low depravity. He's not human. How could someone do such a despicable thing? It's horrifying that, in reality, there are beasts who would kill their own wives for mistresses. Look at Leanna's flashy appearance. She's just a seductive fox, luring men everywhere. Now she's finally satisfied, having led a man to ruin his family. Jason definitely arranged for this doctor to issue a fake death certificate to cover his tracks. The gathered crowd acted like judges in court, criticizing them one after another. Before, they targeted me because Jason encouraged it. Given Jason's notable background, they didn't dare to ignore it. Now, seeing the fallout between Jason and his aunt, this bunch of fence-sitters began to morally sanction Jason from their moral high ground. It was truly laughable. Now, in the public's eyes, Jason has become the beast that everyone despises, and Leanna has become a cunning vixen, seducing other people's husbands and wrecking their marriages. Dr. Luke knelt before Lisa. "Boss Lisa, I swear that none of these things have anything to do with me. I was forced into doing all this. Your nephew threatened that if I didn't help him with this, He would use his influence to make me lose my job. I'm already in my 40s and have both elderly parents and children depending on me. If I lose my job, they will face hardships. I really had no choice. Jason, infuriated and outraged, clenched his fist and walked towards Dr. Luke. Dr. Luke's eyes were filled with sheer terror. Lisa stepped forward and kicked hard, though not with much strength, being a woman. However, the tip of her high heel struck directly into Jason's abdomen. Jason, unprepared for this from his own aunt, staggered backward and squatted on the ground. "How dare you hit Jason?" Leanna placed the child she was holding down and swiftly charged at Lisa. Jason promptly got up and grabbed Leanna's hair from behind and punched her face repeatedly. "You crazy woman, what do you think you're doing? She's my aunt." Jason seemed to vent all his emotions onto Leanna. He kept slapping Leanna's face, one slap after another. "You're the cause of all this mess. It all started because of you. If you hadn't seduced me, how would Shayla have died? How would my aunt have fallen out with me? You scoundrel, it's all your fault. I won't marry you. Go back and continue living with your reformative criminal. Take your son and get out of here now." Lisa coldly watched everything, her gaze suggesting she had lost all hope in her nephew. Leanna was beaten to a bloody pulp. Her voice weakly pleaded, "Husband, please calm down. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Please don't hit me anymore. I'm your wife." Jason mercilessly stamped his foot on Leanna's chest, cursing loudly, "Get lost." Everyone present watched this shocking scene unfold, as a formerly loving couple created such a storm. It was only at this moment that the classmates understood who the true perpetrator of domestic violence was. In the end, it was Lisa who couldn't stand it anymore and slapped Jason's face again. "Enough! Aren't you ashamed yet? Do you know that it's not just Shayla who died because of you, but indirectly her parents as well? Her parents, overwhelmed by sorrow, died one after another in this month. Are you even a human being? What a wonderful girl Shayla was. You didn't know how to cherish her. Now that you've turned out like this, how can I explain this to your parents over there?" Lisa grew more and more angrier, delivering another slap to Jason's face, knocking him to the ground. "But your despicable deeds don't stop there. You've also destroyed other families. As for this slut named Leanna, I won't even mention her right now. She's not worth defending. But what about Shawn? Don't you have any regrets?" Jason gritted his teeth but finally chose to remain silent. "Okay, since you don't want to speak, then I, as your aunt, will repent on your behalf. You've provoked Shawn multiple times, seduced his wife and caused a big ruckus. A year ago, you even framed him and sent him to jail by underhanded means. Do you admit to all of this?" Jason put on an innocent expression, about to attempt a rebuttal, but Lisa cut him off, saying, "Don't even think about arguing. If I could find Dr. Luke, then I can certainly track down the 3 people you bribed. Though our family holds power and influence, we always uphold reason and fairness. We never use our power to bully others. No matter how privileged your status is, if you break the law, you will still be sanctioned. Even if you're my nephew, Jason, you still have to bear the legal consequences for your actions. You're an adult, and you must pay for your crimes." Jason's eyes turned blank at that moment. He crawled like a dog at Lisa's feet, clinging tightly to her leg. "Aunt, I realize my mistake. You will protect me, right? Considering my parents, you won't leave me alone, right? I don't want to go to jail." Lisa shook her head firmly, making her stance and position clear. There was another stir among the crowd. "Damn, it seems we've been blaming Shawn unfairly. He was framed. How can there be such a sinister and cunning person? Poor Shawn has suffered so much, being unjustly imprisoned for over a year. Exactly when he was released, his wife had already cheated on him. And the one who did it was the very person who framed him and got him sent to jail. Shawn, we are truly sorry. We misunderstood you. You're not a convict. You're an honest man who was unfairly treated." I took a deep breath, realizing that all the grievances I've suffered over the years were finally being cleared up now. The Lisa's family does have reasonable people. My head was bleeding badly due to a deep gash at the back of my skull. Lisa took me to the hospital herself. The doctor said I had lost too much blood and suffered a mild concussion, requiring me to stay in the hospital for a few days. I didn't think it was such a big deal and thus didn't want to be hospitalized. But Lisa insisted that I should stay for observation. I thought Lisa would just pay the medical bills and perhaps hire a nurse to look after me. I wouldn't have expected in a million years that she, a top shareholder of the Greenfield Hotel, would personally stay and care for me. I felt quite uncomfortable with this arrangement, but she said she was atoning for her family's mistakes and urged me not to stress about it. Eventually, I reluctantly agreed. To my surprise, Lisa was very good at caring for people. Thanks to her diligent care, my injuries healed quickly, and I was discharged from the hospital in just 2 days. For the first time in my life, apart from my parents, I experienced what it felt like to be cared for by someone else. 3 days later, Lisa personally brought Jason to court. In the end, the Supreme Court ruled that Jason was guilty of multiple crimes, including persecution of others, surrogacy, causing trouble, forgery, and intentional framing. Thus, he received a combined sentence of 12 years in prison. At the moment Jason was sentenced, he gave Lisa a grim smile. "Aunt, I'm your own nephew," he said. In ancient times, there was Judge Thomas who executed his own nephew, and now there's Kelly Adams who sues her own nephew. Lisa responded calmly. "Life is just like this. Mistakes must be admitted, and blows must be taken steadily. This is the principle your grandfather taught me and your father when we were young. With your father gone, it's my duty as your aunt to teach you these principles of living. By sending you to prison now, you still have the chance to turn over a new leaf. Coming out and becoming a good person for yourself after serving your sentence is far better than continuing to live like a devil." Jason knelt down. "Auntie, I know I made a mistake. I'll definitely reform myself. I won't let you down." As for Leanna, all the things she did were exposed, and the decision was made through their company to fire her, fearing it would affect the company's reputation. Leanna, with a child less than 1 year old and without a source of income, was hit hard by this blow. In the end, it was Lisa who could not bear to see her situation and provided her with substantial maintenance fees every month to support her and the child. After all, this child belongs to the family. Even though Jason had made a huge mistake, Lisa, as his aunt, was still willing to clean up after him. My admiration for Lisa increased. In the following days, Lisa continued to come to take care of my daily life, doing the laundry and cooking. This reminded me of Leanna. When I was with her, I would unconditionally take care of her, and she took it all for granted, never actively taking care of me. I handled nearly all the chores at home. Although they were troublesome and tiring, I was still willing to do them. Even when I was sick with a cold or fever, I would force myself to tidy up the house. Knowing that I was not feeling well, she never volunteered to lend a hand, acting as if it were all my responsibility. Even though I did so much, she was still not satisfied. She conspired with Jason and sent me to prison. She even had his child while I was serving my sentence. Thinking of all this, I lamented my lost youth. I could only blame myself for being short-sighted and misjudging people. Lisa always came to my house to take care of me, which made me feel a bit guilty. Many times, I told her I was well enough and didn't need her help anymore. After all, as a major shareholder of Greenfield Group, she must be very busy. She repeatedly expressed her admiration for my attitude toward life. Firstly, I did not smoke or drink, and even after being released from prison, I was still filled with a desire for life, earnestly looking for work and trying to stand on my own in society. Despite all that I've been through, I am still full of vitality, without any hint of negative energy. She said that being with me made her feel very positive and improved her mood. Actually, I think these are secondary reasons. In today's society, there are plenty of men like me, and it would not be difficult for someone of her status to find one. The most important reason is our mutual care for each other. Looking back, we were merely drawn to each other. Perhaps this is the kind of relationship that could last. Although she still insisted on taking care of me, I could clearly see her intentions. I felt like I had won a $10 million lottery by winning the heart of such a strong woman. Although she's somewhat older, I truly appreciated her genuine care and affection for me. One weekend afternoon, Leanna, holding a baby, knocked on my door. When I opened the door, I saw her. Once a radiant, beautiful woman, she had aged considerably, with her hair subtly showing signs of graying. She poured out her recent sufferings to me, along with her past wrongs, continuously expressing her remorse. I listened to her, expressionless. At that moment, she could no longer evoke any emotional upheaval in me. At that moment, Lisa came in through the door carrying groceries. Upon seeing Lisa, Leanna's eyes bulged. "It's all because of you, B*TCH. Without you, Jason and I would still be living our happy lives. You dare to come to my house now, get out." I stood up and blocked Lisa. "The one who should get out is you. I've listened to you for so long. This is already showing you enough respect, so I ask you to do the same. Miss Lisa is my distinguished guest." "What are you?" Leanna looked at me in surprise. She didn't expect such a harsh attitude from me this time. "Shawn, you treat me like this because of this despicable woman? Now my child and I are homeless. What else do you want from me? Am I not miserable enough? Do you want me to be homeless, sleeping under bridges? Now I've lost my job and am despised by the world. How pitiful I am." I stood up suddenly and said with a cold face, "This is your own fault. I have already said that Ms. Lisa is my distinguished guest. You insult her repeatedly. How different is that from insulting me? Furthermore, this is no longer your house, and we have no relationship. Now, get out." Lisa said, "I can give you and the child a generous alimony every month, as I have been doing already. Yet you dare to hurl insults at me. From this point forward, you won't receive a penny next month. Let me make things clear. This is my house. If you do not leave immediately, I will call the police and have you join Jason in prison." Upon hearing this, Leanna, who was initially full of bravado, looked defeated. She grabbed the child and hastily left the house. 6 months later, Lisa and I started dating. She's 15 years my senior, but I believe that as long as there's love and commitment, age is not a limitation. We've decided to hold our wedding on the 8th of next month. I accompanied Lisa to the prison for a visit. When she told Jason about our plans, he was furious. "I do not agree. And who the hell is Shawn Fischer? He's completely worthless. How could he possibly be worthy of you, a shareholder of Greenfield Corporation? What the hell is going on?" Setting aside my personal issues with Shawn, there's a significant age gap between you two. How could you possibly be together? Lisa retorted, "Why can't we? Age is not an issue, and neither is social status. As long as two people truly love each other, that's all that matters. Your agreement or disagreement doesn't really matter. I'm just here to let you know. If I can't get your blessing, there's nothing more to say." With that, Lisa walked out of the prison visitation room without looking back. I slowly sat down in the visitor's chair. Jason stared at me like a starving wolf, as if he wanted to tear me to pieces. Just as he thought I was going to lecture him, I suddenly slapped the desk and started speaking like a child. "Call me uncle." My sudden action first scared him, and upon hearing my words, he was completely dumbfounded. To be honest, I didn't say this to provoke him, but to prove that the man he once derisively called a good-for-nothing and a labor reform offender had married a shareholder of the Greenfield Group. And that woman is his aunt. After a long while, Jason shed 2 lines of tears. "Our family's vast fortune has actually been inherited by you. It's hard to believe that after so many years of precaution, all my efforts ended up in vain. You ended up as the biggest winner." I responded with a mocking gaze. "To put it in a noble way, I joined my life with your aunt not for her money. You, having been a jerk for so long, just don't understand what real love is." On our wedding day, Lisa whispered softly in my ear, "I really love you." I squeezed her hand tightly and replied, Me too. All the bad experiences soon became a thing of the past. I believe that my future life will be filled with happiness and contentment.